What if the most powerful company of the future isn't led by a human at all? No personality cult, no visionary founder, no boardroom of executives. Instead, the chief executive, the final decision maker, is an AI. It sounds absurd, right? But this isn't a line from a sci-fi novel or a late-night podcast theory. This came directly from Sam Altman, CEO of OpenAI, during a quiet dinner in San Francisco with only a handful of reporters. When asked about the company's future, he said bluntly, "In 3 years, the CEO of OpenAI might not be human." That one sentence cracked open a door most of us weren't ready to look behind. Because if OpenAI is even entertaining this possibility, what does that tell us about where they're heading? Think about it. An AI making billion-dollar financial calls, negotiating with world leaders, deciding which technology to unleash on humanity next. A CEO without fatigue, without ego, without fear, and maybe without morality too. In this video, we'll break down everything behind that statement, not as hype, but as a map. We'll look at the rocky rollout of GPT-5, why companies are still adopting it at record speed, OpenAI's insane trillion-dollar plan for data centers, Jony Ive's secretive AI hardware projects, brain-computer interfaces that could let you think your way into ChatGPT, and even the feud between Altman and Elon Musk. We'll dive into Altman's warnings about an AI bubble, his views on privacy, his unexpected advice for Gen Z, and why this all points to something bigger than just the next model. Here's the twist. OpenAI isn't just releasing software anymore. They're building an ecosystem where AI stops being a tool and starts being a participant. So stay with me. Some of this will excite you, some of it will scare you, and some of it will sound flat out impossible. But by the end, you might realize why Altman's comment about an AI CEO doesn't sound like a joke. It sounds like a warning. And if you think, there's no way a robot could boss around humans, remember this, most of us already work for algorithms. Your boss just doesn't admit it. Section 1. The GPT-5 rollout, promise and problems. When GPT-5 finally launched, you'd expect it to be the crown jewel of OpenAI's work. But instead it arrived with mixed reactions. Altman himself admitted it landed colder than expected. Users complained it felt stiff, robotic, even less capable than GPT-4 in certain areas. Imagine buying the latest iPhone only to feel like it's slower than the old one. That was the vibe. For a company under the microscope, this was dangerous. But instead of retreating, OpenAI leaned into a controversial new idea, customizable personalities. Instead of one default tone, users could set ChatGPT to sound warm and conversational, or stripped down and ruthless. This wasn't just a gimmick, it was a statement. AI shouldn't have one fixed identity. It should reflect the person using it. Still, the rollout was messy. Within 48 hours of GPT-5's launch, API traffic doubled. The company literally ran out of GPUs. And when the auto-switching fast versus deep thinking modes broke, people thought the model had suddenly gone brain dead. That's how fragile expectations are at this scale. Inside the company, even executives admitted GPT-5 felt too blunt. Product head Nick Turley joked, "I like that style, I'm German, you know." But he admitted most users didn't. So OpenAI quietly added softer touches, little phrases like "good question" or "great start" to stop it from sounding cold. Yet here's the paradox. While individual users grumbled, enterprises rushed in. Big names like Box, JetBrains, and entire startups shifted their products to GPT-5 overnight. Why? Because under the hood, GPT-5 outperformed rivals. Benchmarks showed it detected security flaws, cleaned up code, and handled dense logic-heavy documents better than Google's Gemini or Anthropic's Claude. And the killer feature, price. GPT-5 runs at a fraction of the cost of its competitors. For companies processing thousands of queries per day, that's not a small difference. That's survival. Altman's play is clear. Sacrifice profit today, flood the market, and win long-term loyalty. The company expects to burn through billions just to keep servers running. But if adoption sticks, GPT-5 becomes less about chat and more about infrastructure. And that's the real story. GPT-5 isn't OpenAI's endgame. It's just the setup for something much, much bigger. Section 2. Why enterprises still love it. So why would businesses flock to a product that some everyday users call dumber than before? The answer is brutal but simple. Performance at scale. For startups building apps, or corporations running thousands of processes per hour, small differences mean millions of dollars. GPT-5 isn't flashy, but it's faster, leaner, and cheaper. One CEO put it this way: "I don't care if it feels robotic. I care that it solves problems." Fox CEO Aaron Levy called GPT-5 a breakthrough because it could chew through logic-heavy documents. JetBrains switched its AI coding assistant. Even no-code platforms adopted it. And the kicker? Benchmarks confirmed it wasn't just cheaper. It was better at spotting bugs and security flaws than the competition. That's why Altman's gamble to slash cost now, own the market later, is genius, and terrifying at the same time. OpenAI expects to burn through $8 billion this year alone. Most companies would collapse under that. But OpenAI is playing a different game, betting that by the time the market stabilizes, everyone will already be locked into their ecosystem. Kind of like a drug dealer giving out free samples, except instead of getting hooked on candy, you're wiring your entire company to depend on AI. And here's the thing, the adoption curve isn't slowing. In 2025, over 50% of companies already use AI in daily operations. Microsoft, Amazon, Google, they've all laid off thousands because of automation. But here's what most people don't see. Those same companies are also hiring aggressively for people who understand AI, who can use it, and who can build with it. So while some are terrified AI will take their jobs, others are realizing it's the biggest career rocket ship in decades. That's why the urgency to learn AI today isn't just smart, it's survival. And survival is exactly what OpenAI's next move is about. Building infrastructure on a scale so massive, it makes tech history look small. Section 3, the trillion-dollar vision. Here's where things go from big tech company to civilization-level gamble. Altman has openly talked about investing $3 trillion into building new data centers, with the expectation of pulling in $4 trillion back in service revenue. Let's pause. Those numbers are larger than the GDP of most countries. Why? Because without that infrastructure, OpenAI risks breaking under its own success. Inference services, the side that powers your chats, are profitable. But training new models, that drags the company deep into losses. Strip out the training costs, and OpenAI would already be wildly profitable today. The problem is scale. Demand for compute is skyrocketing faster than supply. GPUs run out, costs spiral, customers get angry. And Altman knows if they don't fix this, even loyal enterprise clients will walk away. That's why he's rewriting the financing playbook. Traditional venture capital can't handle numbers this big. Instead, he's hinting at entirely new financial instruments, designed specifically to fund infrastructure on a planetary scale. Think about that. Not just innovating technology, but innovating money itself to keep up with AI's hunger. At this point, OpenAI sounds less like a startup and more like an energy company, except instead of oil rigs, they're mining intelligence. But infrastructure is only one pillar. The second is hardware, and this is where things get really interesting. Altman confirmed he's working with legendary designer Jony Ive, the man behind the iPhone, to create a new line of AI devices. He described them as worth waiting for, and even joked that if anyone puts a case on them, he'll personally show up at their door. Humor aside, this reveals how seriously he takes design. He wants these devices to feel iconic, not disposable, and hardware is just the beginning. Because OpenAI isn't stopping at screens and servers. They want to wire AI directly into your brain. Section 4, Brain-Computer Interfaces and the Musk feud. This is where the story tilts from tech news to something out of Black Mirror. Altman has confirmed that OpenAI is actively working on brain-computer interfaces, technology that would allow people to talk to ChatGPT using thoughts alone. Until now, this space has been dominated by Elon Musk's Neuralink. But Altman's entry changes everything. He's already backing startups, like Merge Labs, which raised at an $850 million valuation. OpenAI itself is exploring interfaces that could bypass screens entirely. The goal? Seamless integration of human thought and AI processing. Of course, this isn't just about innovation, it's also about rivalry. Musk and Altman were once allies, co-founding OpenAI in 2015 as a non-profit. But when Musk tried to fold OpenAI into Tesla and failed, he walked, and the relationship soured fast. Since then it's been lawsuits, public insults, and direct competition. Musk mocks ChatGPT as woke, calls Altman scam Altman, while Altman fires back that Musk operates from insecurity. Now the feud stretches across industries, from brain interfaces, to AI models, to social platforms, and even self-driving cars. It's messy, personal, and dangerous. But here's the irony. Rivalries like this often accelerate progress. The higher the stakes, the faster both sides push. And yet, while Altman is battling Musk in the open, he's quietly preparing for an even bigger fight, one over privacy, law, and the very definition of trust in AI. Section 5. Privacy, encryption, and the AI bubble. When millions of people pour their secrets into ChatGPT, business plans, personal struggles, medical questions, the question becomes unavoidable. Who protects that data? Altman admitted this issue wasn't even on his radar at first. But seeing how sensitive the conversations are, he's now exploring encryption models, similar to WhatsApp. Temporary chats are already here, but true end-to-end encryption is tricky, because AI providers are part of the conversation itself. Still, Altman has floated the radical idea that AI interactions should be granted legal privileges, similar to doctor-patient or lawyer-client confidentiality. That's how serious this is. At the same time, he warns of a different danger, the AI bubble. Altman compares today's hype to the dot-com boom. Brilliant tech, overblown valuations, and inevitable crashes. His words are investors overexcited. Yes. Is AI the most important thing to happen in a very long time? Also yes, economists are already sounding alarms. Some argue today's AI bubble is even bigger than the dot-com era. But Altman shrugs. The internet bubble still created giants like Amazon and Google, and he believes AI will produce even bigger ones. In other words, yes, someone's going to lose their shirt, but someone else is going to build an empire. And in the middle of all this chaos, Altman drops personal bombshells too. At that same dinner, he casually said, "I don't Google anymore." He literally couldn't remember the last time he used Google search, because ChatGPT had replaced it. Coming from the CEO of OpenAI, that's not just a habit, that's a declaration of war against Google itself. But if search engines are being dethroned, what about people? What happens to jobs, careers, and the very structure of society? Section 6. Gen Z jobs, and the human future to Gen Z graduates. Altman has called this the most exciting time in history to start a career. He claims a 25-year-old in Mumbai today has more potential leverage than any generation before. He even admitted he's jealous of the opportunities young people have now. But here's the dark flip side. Entry-level jobs, the kind of stepping stones that train new workers, are disappearing fast. Millions of young people are already classified as NEETs, not in education, employment, or training. Experts warn AI could wipe out up to 50% of white-collar entry-level roles in just 5 years. That could push unemployment as high as 20%. This is the duality of Altman's message: thrilling possibilities for those who adapt, crushing realities for those who don't. It's a brutal filter. Learn AI and you rise. Ignore it and risk being left behind. And that's why his statement about an AI CEO doesn't feel like science fiction anymore. It feels like the logical extension of everything we've covered: messy rollouts, enterprise adoption, trillion-dollar infrastructure, brain interfaces, privacy battles, AI bubbles, and generational upheaval. OpenAI is trying to redefine what an AI company even is. And in that redefinition, maybe the idea of a non-human CEO isn't crazy. Maybe it's inevitable. Otro. So what do you think? Would you trust a company run by an AI? Would it be fairer, smarter, more efficient, or terrifying, unaccountable, and dangerous? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Make sure you subscribe if you want to stay ahead of these changes, because the future isn't waiting for anyone. And remember, today, AI is a tool. Tomorrow it might be your boss.